So as I'm recording this video, it has currently been 76 days since Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt have been arrested. And regardless of their efforts, at this moment in time, they still haven't been granted bail, which means they've been in jail for 76 days. Which is a fact that I think a lot of people will be happy with. I remember when we kind of first heard about Ruby and Jodi getting arrested, and then there was a talks of a potential bail that was creeping up, and it got people a bit worried, you know, like, oh, so she's just gonna get out of jail until this trial date, which could be God knows when. But no, they are both currently still in jail, which is good, obviously. I don't know enough about the law to give you an answer as to why that would be, as opposed to other people who've got bail in the past. It could be because of the severity of the charges, it could be because there's a ridiculous amount of evidence to get through, it could also be for Ruby and Jodi's own safety in a way, right? Because no matter where they walk in public now, people know what they've done, and I mean, I think it's fair to say they're not exactly going to be fans of Jodi and Ruby. That's obviously not me saying that something should happen to them in public, by the way. I'm just using my common sense and saying that that is a possibility that could happen. But yeah, we currently don't have a trial date for the main charges, you know, the child abuse charges. Although we do actually have a bit of an update regarding another charge that Ruby Franke is kind of trying to battle at the minute. If you remember when we were first talking about Ruby Franke's arrest, we actually saw a transcript of what the police officers had been talking about amongst each other, like trying to get information about Ruby, and when they looked up her criminal history, there was actually a traffic offence that was just in August of this year. It wasn't that long ago, and we actually have some details of that offence right here. Now obviously this is like the least serious part of the whole situation, but it is something that she's having to deal with right now, and as we can see, she was charged for travelling 50 in a 35 zone, and by the looks of it, she has pleaded not guilty on September 18th. Now again, this is obviously the least important part of the story, but I thought if we're going to give an update with everything that's going on, we may as well mention this, because this is something that Ruby is also having to deal with on top of the other charges, the more serious charges.
The city of Ivins moved to dismiss the charge given other things going on. Ruby's attorney Lamar Windward said, "We agree," and ultimately the judge ruled in that favor to dismiss the charge. As it pertains to Franke and Hildebrandt and child abuse allegations, no new court dates have been set.
But as for the main thing I want to talk about today, it is the situation between Jodi Hildebrandt and Adam Paul Steed. Adam Paul Steed was obviously on the Mormon Stories podcast, in which he spoke about his experience being a client of Jodi Hildebrandt. Now, I can't even begin to go through all the details of what Adam mentioned in that podcast. I believe it was like 4.5 hours long. It's been deleted now, but I did upload a video kind of recapping it at the time and going into more details. So if you do want to see that, I'll try and leave a link in the description. But I'll give a very brief recap, and I'm going to miss out some key details here just for time. But Adam Paul Steed and his now ex-wife were actually clients of Jodi Hildebrandt. They were trying to work on their marriage, but it became very clear that Jodi Hildebrandt was just trying to manipulate Adam's then wife to go against him. And this was in some of the most disgusting ways possible. Jodi would tell Adam's then wife to spread these like fake allegations against him, say he's done stuff that he just hasn't done, call the police on him about stuff that didn't even happen in the first place. And this could have actually resulted in Adam being locked up for a long time. He was facing charges at one point, and luckily that didn't happen in the end because, you know, the truth actually came out, or I don't even know if I can say that, really, because he still did get punished to a certain extent. It just wasn't the amount that he could have been punished for. And on top of that, Jodi Hildebrandt didn't really get punished at all, other than she got her license suspended for a short period of time. But when you bear in mind everything she's done in terms of trying to ruin people's marriages, nearly got a guy locked up for next to no reason, I feel like she deserved a lot worse. But as I mentioned, that podcast was actually taken down, and John, the person who runs Mormon Stories podcast, actually posted this video called "Court Order to Remove Adam Steed's Interview and Call for Stories, 8 Passengers Jodi Hildebrandt." And in this video, he mentions that there's been a court order to remove the content. He gives his reasons as to why he thinks this has happened. He believes this all has to do with the Mormon church. You know, they're trying to protect their reputation in a sense. They don't want the truth to be out there. But all in all, he kind of keeps a lot of the stuff brief because he mentions in the video he can't really talk about it legally. Well, Adam Paul Steed himself has actually just made a post on Facebook only, what, 4 or 5 days ago as I'm recording this video, kind of talking about this situation and how the podcast was deleted. I just feel like it's important to read through this post because Adam Paul Steed has been silenced, it seems. The video has been taken down, so now he doesn't really have a big platform to tell his story. He's just posting this on his Facebook, where obviously less people are going to see it, so I feel like it's just important to let this be seen. Now, it is a very long post, it's got a lot of details in it, so we'll make our way through now. So he starts off by saying, "The silencing of the whistleblowers. Several weeks ago, I spoke up and shared the damning information about my story where the Mormon church, Jodi Hildebrandt, and others suppressed sexual abuse in the Mormon institution that happened to me. It was the highest live-watched Mormon stories of all time. It was an intricate plot where church leaders sent me to Jodi Hildebrandt. Then they destroyed my life." Now, this obviously adds to the theory that the video was taken down to kind of help their reputation, because as Adam is saying here, he believes it was an intricate plot where the church leaders sent him to Jodi Hildebrandt. Now, I do need to say, I don't know if the information is 100% correct to myself. I can only give my personal opinions. My personal opinions is that I do believe Adam Paul Steed and the vast majority of his story, because we know the type of person that Jodi Hildebrandt is, and the stuff he's mentioned definitely does not sound like lies to me. But legally, I do need to say I obviously don't know it as 100% fact. This is all just opinions, and I'm just reading the information out from Adam and his experience. Brigham Young University Honor Code Office was an accomplice to this destruction. I have 500 pages of Honor Code Office records that I subpoenaed. I always struggle with that fucking word. Subpoenaed. Is that right? Okay, we're gonna go with it. I told my story in that podcast. Several people involved in the corruption were exposed with their own documentation. Since then, I was court-ordered to ask media not to tell my story. The grounds for this court order was a family judge interpreting my comments as negative about the other party. I'm not saying they are not true, said the judge. So yeah, as you can see, it seems like, as Adam is saying here, he's being silenced because he's talking in a negative way towards the other party. Now, it is slightly vague, so I don't know this with 100% fact, but I'm assuming he means what he is saying about his ex-wife and not Jodi Hildebrandt in particular. Because I believe, if my memory serves me right, and it might not, because like I said, the podcast has been deleted, I can't actually go back and rewatch at the minute, but I believe there is like a custody battle still going on, or something along them lines. Like I said, that could be wrong, I could be potentially wrong there, but I just don't think he's talking about Jodi here, because I think that case is completely done now with him and Jodi. But either way, as we go through this statement, it becomes very clear that Adam's opinions are actually the fact that the court have silenced them to kind of help their own back and kind of help their own reputation, because Adam has clearly spoke out against the Mormon church in a negative way, if you want to call that, just kind of telling his experience and whatnot, and that is why he believes he is being silenced here. However, she also ordered that we couldn't talk about the actual context. I strongly disagree with her logic and think that it is a cover-up by the Mormon church using a family court involved in racketeering. I just looked at my Facebook post about my Mormon Stories podcast, and there is a note that says independent fact checkers have rated the disappeared post as partially false information. I tried to fact check the fact checkers, and they were all in different languages which I don't speak, from different parts of the world. I don't understand what's going on. Now, he does include a screenshot of this, and as you can see, there is like a community note, I guess, on his post that has now been deleted regarding Jodi Hildebrandt that says, independent fact checkers say this information has some factual inaccuracies. You can choose whether to see it. Now, I don't really know how these notes work on Facebook, or how the whole like independent fact checkers thing works. I mean, it literally says at the bottom here to stop the spread of false information. I have no idea. I don't really use Facebook, so I don't get it, but if anyone else has any more information on how that works, please let me know. But either way, it does seem like people are trying to take away the legitimacy of his post and kind of ruin his reputation in a sense. My freedom of speech has been removed by a 4th District family court. I can't defend myself. I can't share documents that fact check prove the truth. They say I signed away my freedom of speech. I can't even share what they say I have signed, but this interpretation is not what the agreement says. The same Mormon court that is involved in the corruption of my case is the same one that ordered the gag order who is complicit. Not only did the gag order judge reinterpret what was signed outside of its meaning in English, they also pulled the original agreement from documents that were fraudulently turned into their court, or possibly fraudulently changed by the court itself, instead of the ones from our settlement. So yeah, as we can see by Adam's statement here, he believes there is a lot of corruption with this court, this family court. Like I said, I don't really have too much knowledge in how the Mormon church and stuff works, because, I mean, I'm not Mormon, obviously, so I don't know the ins and outs personally, but I'm just reading what Adam has said here, and this is obviously an opinion that he's had for a long time. Also, on the record, in that last hearing, the judge stated, I care way more about you not being contempt to court than I care about the truth. The same judge who then said they were doing this to protect parties involved, an eerie feeling filled the courtroom as we know who they were really protecting. But judge, what about when the court are contempt to the truth? What about false settlement documents being put in the courthouse instead of the ones we signed, and me being further held to the retical interpretations of those documents, being used to remove freedom of speech? What about when your same court documents accused me of 4 felony charges, 20 years in prison, which was totally illegal and thrown out later, but did tremendous damage at the time? Yeah, obviously, if what Adam is saying is true here, there is something very fucking dodgy going on, especially after everything he has been through. The least he should be able to do at this point is tell his story, and the fact he's being silenced is disgusting if this is how it's actually happened. Can you imagine having your freedom of speech taken away by someone who cares about 100% obedience, but who doesn't care about the truth, and is originally pulling her claims from documents that were not the ones that were signed in the settlement conference? But now, somewhere, someone on the in can go on Facebook and argue falsely that there is inaccurate information, but we aren't allowed to defend and share documented evidence because of the Utah 4th District Court. I strongly believe the Utah 4th District Court is involved in the cover-ups of the sexual abuse cases in the Mormon Church, through racketeering with the top church leaders to punish whistleblowers who've exposed child abuse cover-ups in the Mormon Church. I was there. I know the truth. In this short matter of time, you've only convinced me that rather than take responsibility for your crimes, you will bury the truth. You will cheat democracy by blocking the public from hearing the facts. You act like you don't, but you kinda do. Claim you are from God. It's the Mormonism in you. Claiming absolute obedience is more important than truth, as you did in the last hearing. So yeah, very, very strong opinions from Adam here. He's obviously going to have very strong opinions after effing that he's been through, especially with the podcast being taken down. But I would love to know your opinions on effing that he's saying here. He's obviously raised some big claims, so I would love to know your thoughts. I think you believe if God told you to sacrifice your firstborn son like he did Abraham, it would be a great of your obedience. I am that child of truth being sacrificed here, and I can tell you it always was murder. Only a cult would inoculate its people into absolute obedience over manifest truth of innocent life. There were tens of thousands of comments of people on that post and others I did, which said things positive about the content of the post you deemed negative. There was hardly a negative comment to be found. You in the court removed it on the grounds that it was negative. You used an overly broad protective order that said I was not allowed to say negative things in front of said party, and then implied that this meant I couldn't say anything to the press or online either, and you deemed it negative, when really it exposed the corruption and the power of the Mormon Church, which had negative implications for the 4th District Court. And then acting like it was for the good of the parties, you made both parties bound to never share any of what happened with the public. Wow, just wow. It's like my life just became part of a movie. You also said the only document the public can see is the one that I never signed. Someone in your court process originally fraudulently put that document in there as if it came from both parties, but you were totally okay with that being the only document the public can see. I can't believe the corruption and the power come from the Utah 4th District Court. Let me tell you something about your future, since you always prophesied about ours. You know who you are. There are too many people in this world to let this corruption continue as part of a government and or religion. You may have learned how to manipulate us out of our own voices, but that won't last long. I believe it will only hasten your downfall. You had a chance to lead us with the truth, but you chose this. I will find my voice with it. I will expose and condemn you publicly until you have no place to hide. My generation of people will find our voices, and with them we will speak our truth. And your money, which actually was the people's money, won't be able to silence us. So yeah, that is a new statement from Adam Paul Steed. As you can see, he is absolutely gutted and fuming about this whole situation, and I mean, you can't blame him, right? He just wanted to tell his story, which is the least he can do after the amount of shit that Jodi Hildebrandt put him through for so many years, and now he's being silenced. Obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of the way that he's been silenced. There seems like there is a lot of dodgy stuff going on behind the scenes here, but this is all information coming from Adam Paul Steed himself, so I would love to know your thoughts down below. So yeah, like I said earlier, I thought it was important to show this so people can see what Adam is saying. Since his video was taken down, his story has been taken down, I think it's important to let his voice be heard at this point, and yeah, I would love to know your thoughts on everything we spoke about in today's video. So if you're new here, subscribe and all that stuff, and until the next one, I'll see you guys in a bit. Alright, goodbye.